August is now over, which means it's time to take a look at every game that I played in August. The first game that I played in August was Psychonauts 2. In July, I played the first game and I absolutely loved every minute of it, so I had to play the sequel. And every single ounce of this game is fantastic. It has become one of my favourite games of all time. Like the first game, the level design was great. Each level is designed uniquely to match the vibe and tone of the mind you are entering. If we're specifically talking about gameplay, it has massively improved upon the first game. Each ability is actually important and will be used at some point or another, whereas in the first it felt like you would be given the ability and it'll only be used in that level you unlocked it in. For example, clairvoyance is actually useful as it's used to take out bad moods, which is a type of enemy. On the topic of enemies, there are new enemies with names that are based on things in the brain, different things that happen in the brain like regrets, doubts, panic attacks, and bad ideas. Each enemy has different weaknesses that can be killed much easier with your different abilities that you unlock throughout the game. Overall though, Psychonauts 2 is an amazing sequel that massively improves on the first and brings fresh new ideas that make the game better. At times it can be an emotional adventure that takes a look at some heavy topics like gambling and drinking, but overall it has a lot of charm and it is fantastic. The second game that I played in August was Valorant, and I've got to admit I actually wasn't a big fan. The gameplay wasn't awful, but there are many first-person shooters I would much rather play than Valorant. To be honest, the characters in the game just weren't interesting. I couldn't name a character, to be honest. I feel like a lot of the abilities in the game were just glorified smoke grenades that made everything in the game just feel slower. The visibility was terrible. I also wasn't a big fan of the fact that you have to pretty much stop moving to hit your shots. The more movement you do, the harder it is to hit your shots. And look, I also am not a big fan of the fact that you have to think about crosshair placement, so you have to hit headshots because it's one shot. I hate that in games. That's why I don't really play Rainbow as much, but still, Rainbow isn't as bad as this, where headshots are so important, otherwise you are pretty much going to lose every gunfight. Look, call it a skill issue, but I hate having to hit headshots, otherwise you do risk losing gunfights. Now, something that isn't related to gameplay and isn't a major issue, but is still a bit of an issue, is the cosmetics in Valorant. They are incredibly expensive. £40 to £50 for a cosmetic gun skin bundle, where 90% of that price is the knife skin. It's overall an absurd amount of money to pay for weapon skins in a free-to-play game. I know it's free-to-play, they've got to make money, but a lot of other games charge way less for cosmetics, and a lot of people complain about other games' prices, but wow, Valorant definitely takes a piss with it. Look, with much better shooters on the market and equally much better free-to-play shooters available, Valorant becomes less and less appealing. The third and final game that I played in August was Starfield. During Gamescom, they announced an update that included a brand new vehicle coming to Starfield and a frame rate boost coming to Series S consoles. So naturally, I decided to download the game and finally play through the story because I haven't before, and I thought, you know what, now they've updated it, it's time to take a look at Starfield. Now, let's not beat around the bush here. There was certainly a lot of criticism from players and journalists surrounding Starfield at the launch, and after playing it, I can definitely see where they were coming from. For example, the loading screens. My word, are they awful. They weren't awful because they were long, they were awful because of how many loading screens there were when going from planet to planet, and it was such a ludicrous amount that it became genuinely frustrating. I also feel that the story wasn't particularly interesting either. That being said, I did enjoy the gameplay. Gunplay was fun, and I will admit there is so much content to get stuck into, and some of it is actually quite good. If I'm being honest, in my opinion, I do genuinely think the side content in Starfield is much better than the main story. At times I do think Starfield can be quite overhated by people, but at the same time, it certainly isn't great. I do think Starfield is enjoyable and it is worth playing, but for me, it was disappointing and it really didn't live up to expectations. Let's be honest, those expectations were very high, and that's because Bethesda put those expectations on us. They said how ambitious it was. But yeah, overall I was left disappointed. So those were the games that I played in August. If you like the video, please leave a like. That would be appreciated. But thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.